Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Partners in Prosperity. In this episode, we'll be talking about some of our biggest successes as well as our biggest losses or failures.
For sure. And I think the biggest thing that we want you to take away is the takeaways that we've taken away. First of all, to let you know that you are human if you are winning big, but also failing big, but also just trying to show you what we've learned in our darkest moments of going through some of the things that we thought we were past that, right?
Yeah.
Some things we thought we were too big to fail or flying too high for this to necessarily go wrong. And number one, how reality has a way of bringing you back down to earth. But number two, how that God only allows certain things to happen to you so that you can learn from them and be molded into the person in the business that He, wants for you. So we're going to kind of try to tie back some of those losses to what we learned from them and how we use them going forward.
First up, as usual, we got some ish and giggles.
So what is ours this week?
If we could switch bodies, right?
Yes, Freaky Friday. I know that you guys have seen that. There's what, like family swap? They had that too, where everybody in the family. Yeah. So basically, if you and your spouse or partner woke up the next day and it was a body swap, you had all of your thoughts. You were who you were, but you woke up in your partner's body. What would be the first thing or how would you spend the day? I guess not even the first thing you would do, because the first thing I would do is kind of lose it. But as you went through the day, how would you go through your day?
Oh my gosh, I would not lose it. I would not get out of bed, and I would find myself for 24 hours, probably.
Gosh. Such a stereotypical answer.
I'm just saying.
I could see that. I think that guys put such a big, breast guys, I guess, put such a big quality on these pieces of flab that we have here. I think that to wake up and have them, I don't think you would get out of bed, right?
No, definitely not. Now, on the flip side, though, the ladies, y'all are acting like you wouldn't be doing the similar stuff, but you would be. Y'all all have a little...
But what I think is that we have it because we're out in public and we have to find a bathroom to use, so that like we have it for different reasons. So I would be outdoors all day. I wouldn't have to be like, oh my gosh, let's find a bathroom. I would be drinking all the things. I would be outside. I'd be hiking, because guys, they can just stop on the side of the road and just, ladies, without getting into the detail of the detail, you know what it's like for us to have to use the bathroom anywhere else besides the bathroom.
Now listen, this is similar to what I said I would do if we had swapped bodies. It's something kind of exaggerated that the other person really wouldn't do at all. And so I would never just pull over and pee on the side of the road just because I could.
You had to, you would though.
Yes, and you would too, I feel like, if you had to as a woman.
Well, no, I get that. But I just think there's so many times where we have to stop and be like, okay, what's the bathroom situation here? Like if we're or if we're hiking, right?
For sure.
We always have to be like, okay, what's the bathroom situation like? Because while you can take the boys and go pull off somewhere and just get it handled, come back to the trail, we're like in a pinch, like, hurry up, we got to get back down to the bottom. So to be able to be outside all day and not have to worry about that whole bathroom setup would be nice.
I think
I would walk around too, sorry to interrupt you, with my shirt off, because as females we just don't get that option.
I think you can do that. Who's stopping you?
Yes. Penal code, whatever.
You say penal.
Yes.
Yeah, we wouldn't just be using the bathroom all over the place, and
I would just feel so empowered though that we could just do whatever that day. I'd have my shirt off all day.
Right.
I would be like, come on, we can go anywhere.
Now here's the commonality: is that in both scenarios where we've swapped, each person thinks that what the other person's doing is so overrated.
I could see that.
Like she's like, yeah, why would you get out? Like, that's so overrated. I have these things all the time. I don't. I just get up every day and do what I need to do.
No. I'm very happily in possession of these things. I don't want to give you the interpretation that I'm like, whatever.
Very true.
I'm a very happy camper.
Very true. You are.
I feel like, just on the flip side, you are a very happy camper with the equipment that you've been given.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a very happy camper with the equipment that you've been.
Thank you.
But I'm saying there's certain things that make it a little less convenient when we're out and about and have to kind of think about those things.
Makes sense.
So I think that's what I would do.
I think, the laws and stuff are starting to loosen up. They're starting to be a little
So
more...
the girls can just squat anywhere.
Yeah. There's more gender neutral bathrooms.
That's true. That is helpful because,
Yeah.
ladies, I don't know what we do in there because I'm probably at fault as well. But why is it that the guys' bathroom seems to go so much quicker than our bathroom?
now,
Is it because they have it split where we have the urinals and I don't know. But anytime my little girls have to go to the bathroom, I'm sending them with him because they're going to pee on themselves if they have to wait in our, I don't know.
Now, I know the answer to this.
Oh, you do?
I do. Yes.
From all your time in the women's bathroom?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
Please share
Just
with
observation.
Share with all of us, yes.
So this applies to just about everything, not just the bathroom.
Okay, now I really want to hear it.
Yeah. So scenario, say you go into the grocery store and you need to get sugar and milk. I feel like the guy, not stereotypically, in general, I'm not being specific, this is just in general. A guy could he'll go specifically to the sugar, he'll go specifically to the milk. We may have to find it first, but that's what we're gonna do. Women, on the other hand, could go get sugar and milk, and then there's toilet paper, and then there's this, and then there's that, and then there's, oh, look at this, and then there's that. It just takes more time. Nothing wrong with that. It just takes more time. So I feel like that's what happens when y'all go to the bathroom, too. You kind of sitting there, you chill, you use the bathroom, but then you're doing all this other stuff. You're not really expeditious.
Love, the two have nothing to do with each other.
It's the principle. It's the principality, Smokey.
Because
it's the principality.
when you are in, I get that if you're in your own bathroom and you take your phone and it's your quiet time, you close the door. But when you're in I don't feel that way. Like in a public one, it's just not a place that you can get comfortable. You're trying to get in and get out. For some reason, it just takes us longer. I don't know.
And there's the rules. We have the guys' rules. Ain't no talking. There's none of that stuff. Y'all be in there talking across the
definitely.
stuff.
Definitely. If I go with my girlfriends, because especially if we're going back to the table and our significant others are there, we got to get all that conversation in that we can't have. And so we're going to start the conversation outside. We're going to carry it in next to us and then it's going to come back up. But I think that's being efficient. I don't feel like that's taking us so much longer.
Fine, but you have other women waiting while y'all are conversing.
Sometimes other women will get in the conversation and...
Oh my God, y'all are breaking all the rules.
I just didn't know that there's these rules. I guess we'll have to revisit that on another podcast of different rules because it's so interesting how Body Swap has gotten us into this whole bathroom conversation. I guess it's a very intricate situation when boys or men go into the bathroom.
Yeah, and you have to be aware of this if you're going to swap and have you can't just go in the bathroom.
Because I'm talking to everybody. I got questions.
No.
How you doing, sir? Hi. Yeah. Oh, so you got that pierced. Did that hurt? No. You can't talk. No eye contact.
Oh my gosh.
No shaking hands.
No touching. No touching. Not even yourself, unless you're, peeing. But otherwise, no.
Do you just pee like this?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's why there's a mess. That's why. Okay. All right, I'm learning. No, you're not. No, you're not. Kidding, not kidding, no.
But listen, it is funny when, as a guy, you walk into the bathroom and there's the stalls on the wall and you see the occasional guy in there with his pants all the way down to his ankles. That has happened a couple of times.
I probably would be that guy. I would never think like, oh, you just need to do this. Okay. So we're going to go through those rules, I think, one day. We're going to devote some ish and giggles time to the rules of the men and women's bathroom. Because on the flip side, he's going to have to continue the conversation with his friends because they're going to think he's being weird to just go in the bath. They're in the middle. Also, girl, I was telling you.
Nope. Yep. You got to stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get punched in the face, man.
We're going to have to go over that. Yeah. It's going to be a conversation.
So stay tuned for that bathroom conversation.
Yes. And in the comments, please let us know some rules that we need to make sure we include in there because I just didn't know there were all these rules in the men's. And women, we probably have some in ours too that we just didn't
know about or weren't aware of.
Yes, let us know.
All right now. All right, y'all. So let's get into the topic at hand, which is some of our biggest successes as well as our biggest failures or lessons that we've had to learn from. So a little backstory about me really quickly. My background is IT, and I tried to do my own business back when I was in Dallas a while ago and just hated it. Hated it. I just wanted to fix stuff. I didn't want to deal with people and do any admin stuff. I just want to fix and move on. And so that's kind of what stopped me from being an entrepreneur before and going back into the whole 9-to-5 thing was the security of just being able to show up, do whatever my talent was and leave.
For sure. And myself, I was a horrible employee because on the flip side, I always wanted to be doing my own thing. So I just always had that thought, any job that I had, even though it was secure, if they're paying me $20 an hour, how much must I be making them? You know, and if I can eliminate and figure out how to do it more effectively and efficiently, then I should be getting all of that. So we came into this situation with one of us being a diehard entrepreneur and the other one being like, no, I don't want to deal with people, and people is what you need, and you know, in order to run an effective business. And so we kind of brought that in, but what we both wanted was the security of having a pretty comfortable life, right?
Yeah,
we knew we wanted security and flexibility. So we talked, I believe, in one of our episodes about what's important to us, kind of setting our mission statement. And one of the big things was travel.
Yeah,
so we knew that was important to us, and we started running into some issues when Sean worked for another company, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was good. I think that we wouldn't be who we are today had you not come and had that job
For sure.
at that company, which was really cool, by the way. It just, they needed you there for a certain time, and that's not too much to ask.
Right.
It's just, we have 5 kids. We travel a lot outside of doing things as a family, just for their all-star cheer or just for dance. And so there would be times where we would have to say goodbye to him a day early because he has to make it home on Sunday night to make sure that he can be back at work on Monday, which for us, because we don't know what awards are going to be like on Sunday, Monday's
Right.
usually our travel day.
For sure.
And we're heading out on Monday or sometimes later, because depending on how the competition went, we're spending a day there to do something fun and take our kids' minds off of, you know, this is not, we don't just eat and breathe competition. So
Right.
we would have to do all of that without him. So he would be there to make it for the, you know, day 1, most days day 2, sometimes awards. And then he'd have to jet off.
Yep.
And that happened more than once.
A couple of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what happened was we find ourselves in Florida. We're there for Summit. Or no. We're there for UCA.
Yes. That was the other one.
And you miss awards. And so he goes back. He's trying to stay as long as possible. We're trying to wait for awards. The girls start crying. They don't want him to leave. So he stays as long as possible. He heads out. And what happens?
So I get out there and ended up missing my flights.
For no other reason that he was
Oh,
just
my
trying to
gosh.
stay with our girls as long as possible.
Yeah.
We had a party late that night at Disney World. They do, for the cheerleaders, a lot of times they'll close down the park and just have it be for the cheerleaders. And so the time before he was able to make it. This time around, he wasn't able to make it. The girls were having a hard time. And so he was trying to stay into that very last minute, left way too late, ends up missing his flight.
Yeah, there's traffic and all sorts of stuff. So I ended up missing my flight, getting on one later.
No, you had to get on one the next morning. Because you came back and went to the party with us.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So while we loved it and we're like, yay, his boss wasn't like, yay.
Not like yay at
And
all.
so I was feeling bad because although he wanted to be present with us as a family, I could tell in the back of his mind, he was like, no, I got to go back and answer to the powers that be because they are not going to be happy. I think you did like new hire orientation or that version.
That's what it was, yeah.
That you had to be there that Monday morning for. So it shifted everything. And so I think then we started having those conversations like, hey, you just having another job. I don't know what to tell you, love. I know they pay you a check, but it's just not conducive to what we want to do as family. Just to be honest, but we didn't have the income to have him stay at home. But we knew that we set our visions and our goals, and then we align our lives to support that. So even though we didn't have it at the time, we knew that we were going to have to do what we needed to do to bring him home. Because he wasn't going to make it very long at a job if he kept putting us first.
Right.
But that's what he wanted to do, was put his family first. So that's kind of what brought us to close that gap between where I was entrepreneur-wise and what he was thinking as far as wanting to run his own business.
Absolutely. Once we got together, and she was pregnant with our youngest, Nayeli, she went on maternity leave from her job and essentially just never went back. And so that's during that time frame when she was on maternity leave, we were able to figure out how to create our own business based off of what she was doing as far as ABA services.
And so, I mean, thank God that he was okay with that. It was a conversation, but thank God he was, like, all right, well, let's bet on you. And he would come home and kind of help work the business. After he did his 9 to 5, he would come home and kind of eat dinner and then be my assistant, so to speak, and set up the whole, IT portion of it so that we can bill and so that we can keep track of hours and all of those things. I think by the time we got to the point where we're like, we need to run this together, he was already doing 2 jobs at that point. And so that's kind of the background on how we start a little bit into it. Maybe one day we'll sit and tell the long story, but I think it's way more interesting if you guys just hear bits and pieces as we go, because we can relate it to the actual topic at hand, and it's not just us sitting and talking about each other.
Yeah, and so how that ties as far as a success or failure, I would say that was an overall success, just from a standpoint of it's what got us to where we are right now. It started us in the mindset of not working for someone else and kind of, eating what you kill, basically. But at the same time, it was still very, very risky, because, she had a nice, director position and everything that she could have went back to. And now we're starting pretty much from scratch with, I think, 1 or 2 learners that we had. And she was literally doing all of the clinical stuff. And I was doing all of the background IT stuff. And pregnant. Yes. Yes. So fast forward.
But I would say that was a success, right? That can go to the success file.
Absolutely.
That we were able, I know that how blessed we were to kind of set that intention and have it go right the first time around, because I will say that since that day that I left for maternity leave, I've never worked for anybody but our own company. So I would put that in the success. And I say that to say, because we're about to go through a whole slew of failures, but we have to remember how blessed we are that we were even able to set that intention and keep going. So I would say that that's a lesson that we learned from that success, is that you have to bet on yourself sometimes, and you have to set the mission for your family and then get busy orchestrating your life in a way that supports that mission. So when we saw that it wasn't going to be long-term feasible for him to kind of be working on another job, we started trying to figure out how we can set ourselves up to kind of support that. So I would say that was a lesson that we learned from that first success. Number one, when God brings you to a window and tells you to jump, do it. He's one of 2 things are going to happen. He is going to teach you how to fly, or he is going to catch you when you fall. One of those 2 things. But if you're hearing that nudge and you're hearing, and we don't want to be exclusive. So whoever you believe in, whatever higher power, whatever, when you feel that nudge within yourself and you're like, I think I can do this. I think it's not going to come without a lot of hard work and some pitfalls, as we'll get into.
Absolutely.
But when you feel that urge to jump, come up with the plan and then start constructing your plan as you go. We did learn that we could still be those 2 people in a condo, still miserable because he's working for somebody else and I'm working for somebody else, and our family is suffering. In light of everything that's gone wrong or gone right, it all started with that decision to kind of bet on ourselves. So him first betting on me, because then he's going to be the only breadwinner, and trusting that I'm going to make it work, coming in and spending that time to make it work. But then also us betting on ourselves when you decided to not go back into the workforce as well.
Absolutely. And so once we were able to establish that, we started with one funding source, and then we added another. And I would say by 2020, so we started in 2016, and I would say by 2020, 2021, we were,
7 figures?
7 figures? And so that's huge. I mean, it's that explosion that we had in those 4 years was amazing. There were a lot of growing pains, but we were able to, sock some money to the side to start investing in real estate. And so that's kind of where our lessons really began, or the hard knocks, I'll say, is once we started purchasing our properties. And so we started out with four of them. So we started out first with a single family home that we won at an auction, which was so much fun, by the way. It was basically like eBay, but for houses.
It was cool.
And, we're bidding, we're going against other people and stuff. And so we get that. And then we ended up purchasing another single family one that we did with hard money. And then we purchased 2 flat as well that we did all cash.
So we say that to say that was a failure wrapped in success wrapping.
Absolutely.
So I don't want you to hear that and be like, oh, we don't relate at all to that, because there's no way that we have money to go in and purchase all of these, properties.
And this was over about a 6 to 8 month period.
We kind of went crazy. And so what we had decided to do as we were, our business was exploding, we were very nervous about the tax implications to that. And so we were like, we have to figure out another place to park our money so that it's not looking like we're just kind of sitting on all of this money. money. This is very new to us. So what are the tax implications going to be? And so we started investing in real estate, which, like I said, it was at the time a very good choice. The speed at which we went was ended up being detrimental to us, especially because we were so new in the field. I think we got excited, like, oh, you just buy a house, it's very cool. But we do not live in the place that we were buying these homes, so we are having now to depend on contractors and other professionals that we don't see every day.
Exactly.
And so that kind of brought us into one of our biggest lessons.
Yeah, what came with that was having to have a lot of trust in the people that you have on the ground there in that location, making sure that you're having regular meetings, regular updates. But the most important thing is making sure that you kind of have a competent project manager or a competent person there running everything for you.
For sure, making sure that they're telling you the truth on your regular meetings and your regular updates, because they know that you don't know, and so that kind of got us into a mess.
For sure. And so we would have these meetings and everything, and we were being shown pictures and stuff. Over time, we began to build some sort of trust with that process, but what ended up happening was we weren't gaining any other knowledge from it. And so as things began to fall apart over time, as we just kept sinking money into it, we figured out that the best way to do it was to do it on our own. We had to bite the bullet and basically get rid of the
almost
project
all
manager
of the professionals we were using and kind of handpick. But I think that the lesson that we learned in that was anytime you're new to something, there's no substitute for getting in and learning every aspect of it yourself, because then you can bring on people. I believe that our behavioral business has been so successful because everything that we've hired other people to do, at one time Sean did himself or I did myself.
Absolutely.
So there is a lot that we can kind of create systems and processes for. Now, don't get me wrong, these people that we have now hired to do it have fine-tuned them because it's their gift. It's their lane. But we do know the gist of what it should look like. We do know the gist of the goals that should be hit. We have some kind of working knowledge. So we're not coming in and just giving people money and hoping and praying that they know what they're doing, because we have no idea what we're doing. So I think that's a big lesson, is that there's no substitute for getting in there and knowing a little bit about each aspect of the business that you're running. Because if not, you're putting a ton of responsibility in somebody else's hands who can drop the ball because it's not their money. It's not their name attached to the business. They can go get another job, and you're still left holding the bag of this name and this reputation because you didn't know.
Absolutely. To be more specific as far as our lessons learned with the properties, the one single family we had, we were about halfway through it. The top was framed, the bottom was framed. And what ended up happening was the city came by, noticed that there wasn't a permit in the window, looked up the property and saw that there was no permit applied for at all. And so they shut us down. They pretty much shut us down. This was during COVID as well. So they shut us down. And really all we have to do is get a permit and architect plans.
Sounds
you think
easy,
it's simple, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Especially during that time.
Yeah, not during COVID and in this specific location. No, not at all. So we were able to find, to expedite the permit process, and get the drawings and everything done. But that whole process as far as expediting took a year. A whole year. And so that property we used with hard money. And so for those of you who don't know, just a quick education, hard money is when you're getting your project financed through a lender. And so that lender is going to give you a certain time frame to fix this property up before they want their money back.
A high interest lender at that.
Yes. And so what ended up happening was, because we were waiting on the permit with the stop order, the maturity of our loan ran out, and then we essentially had to pay all of that back, or give the property back. And so that's kind of how that ended up happening. Was we ended up being able to offload it before they were able to foreclose it.
For sure. But that was a hard lesson learned. We loved that property as far as what the numbers represented, as far as what fixing it up represented. I feel like we're at the property. We got to walk the neighborhood, talk to some of the owners. They were so happy that we were kind of fixing up. So it was a hard lesson, for us, but it was a lesson hopefully that we'll carry with us from now on, is that we have to have our hands in some of it enough to when we do offload it, we know exactly what we want it to look like.
Absolutely.
We still have properties in this location, but we are able to organically build a team now that we know exactly what to tell them we want done. And if they fine tune it, that's great, but we know the bare minimum that should be done. And I think that came from the growing pains of just thinking we could put money towards the problem and expect that everybody would do what they're supposed to do.
And what ended up happening, what'll end up happening is those people absolutely take your money and just tell you anything.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what will happen unless you're able to go there regularly and verify, or you have some sort of relationship where you've built enough trust to where they respect you enough to not basically screw you over.
Yeah, so I think the biggest, if we could summarize that takeaway, it's that knowledge is power, and he who has the knowledge has the power.
Absolutely.
So if we don't know and we're giving all of we're relying on their expertise, they have all the power.
Absolutely.
And when put in the wrong hands, it can sink you. And so that's a lesson that we learned.
Yes, with real estate for sure. Another lesson that we learned was in our ABA practice. And we had an employee who put in their notice. And we noticed that halfway through it, they weren't necessarily doing anything. So we're like, okay, you can go ahead and leave. It's fine.
No, they fell off the grid. We couldn't find them. We didn't know what was happening. They did give their notice, but after that, they just kind of fell off the grid. So we assumed that this was because of another job they had, or life just got more hectic. So as opposed to us continuing to think that for these 2 weeks, we're going to continue to get completed projects from them, especially because we can't reach them, we just gave them the go ahead to just kind of, we'll let you go right now, and we won't expect anything else from you.
Right. We went ahead and let them go and everything. That person moves on, we move on. I would probably say, so this was February of, I think, 2020 or so. At the end of that year, we get something in the mail from like a advertisement saying, hey, we
You're
can help
sued.
you. Yeah, we can help you with this lawsuit, this
And we're like,
wage
what lawsuit? No,
And
we're not.
We're like, what are you talking about? And so we go and look up the case number, and this person had apparently sued us, saying that we didn't pay her for the 2 weeks that she was not there and didn't do anything.
And so that we were kind of cocky because what we knew is that we could prove that we had severed the relationship. We could prove that we didn't have her. We had asked her from that point not to do any more work. We could prove all of that. So we were kind of cocky because we didn't know what we didn't know. So should that have been just the basis that she was suing us, I think that we would have been fine. But what happens, especially in employee-friendly states, and that's all we'll say about that, is that there's a number of reasons to have a class auction. And what she found a lawyer that was like, this is a small business. So tell me, do you have a clock in and clock out type thing? No, she did not. She worked from home. She got to make her own hours. She would submit it to the scheduler. They would put it on the schedule so we knew when to pay her. But there was no timesheet that she was doing. Are they ensuring that you're taking your lunches on time? No, we were not. She worked from home. She got to put in her hours. So that answer that I'm giving you is the reason why we just thought this is a no-brainer. However, it pays to know the HR laws in your state when you start having employees. So I alluded to that in the beginning, how Sean never wanted to work with people, right? There is a part, and I think our litigation attorney even told us, in this state that you guys are living with, and I would never have employees. This is nuts. You have to tap dance so much around the things that you just have to do. Now, that's a little bit extreme. We love our employees, and we've had great relationships with employees. I would just say that this served to teach us that there's all these little laws. I mean, HR is a whole thing for a reason. And we were just thinking, if we just get some template HR sheet, if we just get some template employee handbook, and we're cool, right? We're letting everybody work from home, set their own hours, unless they're in the field. We don't need all of this. We're doing it like the new modern way. There are a lot of things that you can get caught up on when it comes to having employees in HR that you need to. Now, listen, employees clone your time, right? You're able to have 5 people doing the same thing so that you're able to 5 extra money. So it is worth it, but you are now an employer. You now have the state that you are working in, employing their citizen or their residents, that you have to answer to. So it's not just as easy as getting people to work under you. You need to make sure that you have your HR handbook and your policies and guidelines airtight. So we will not give you specifics on that because I know that every state is different. But what we will say is that litigation, because we ended up getting sued to the tune of a 6-figure settlement for an employee that worked for us for less than 3 months, and whose last check, I think, with us was less than $200, because she found an attorney that said, this one that you're bringing up to us, no. The real money is this.
Yep.
And ended up getting sued. And all we could tell ourselves, although it felt like a slow death during it, is that
Never again.
God is setting us up because he doesn't want us to be an 8-figure business and still be running this patchwork HR operation
right.
and really get hit. So we could only be grateful months and months later. I mean, we're human. So it was hard at that time. We could only be grateful that it happened then when we were still relatively small.
Absolutely.
Before we had the chance to grow and really get hit with multi-million-dollar class action. A lot of times it's just these little things that companies didn't know, but attorneys know. And I will tell you, when it's a class action, the only person that wins are attorneys. Because if you would ask any employee that was on the roster, because what they do in order to get more money is they now multiply by each employee that was in your company. So now each of them they probably each got less than $500 on a 6-figure settlement. Who won was the attorney who got 50%.
Yeah, I don't know if they got 500, maybe 5,000.
I don't think that they did, because there were employees that worked for us that hit me up and said, "Hey, I just got this check. I don't want this.
Gotcha.
I'm fine with what you do for, and I had to tell them, hey, by law, you have to take this. And, by law, if what they're saying is what we did, then you deserve this, but it wasn't I was very surprised, let's say that, when I found out how much she got. And she was one of our OGs. So I was very surprised at what she got, so that I know, let's say Sally, let's call her Sally. I know Sally. If she got 500, Sally got 11. But number one, she stuck it to us, but and then number two, the attorneys walked away whistling to the bank.
I'm sure.
It's a lesson. Sometimes there's going to be other people that are blessed on behalf of you learning a lesson, and it's going to feel like it's not fair. But I think that it was worth it.
Absolutely.
Because we learned that lesson.
So the lesson there is to make sure you are up on your HR stuff. If you don't know it yourself, make sure you hire someone that knows it for you. And so that's what we did. We found someone local here. She let us know what all the laws were and everything.
She wrote our employee handbook.
She wrote our employee handbook. Yep. We have meal waivers and all sorts of stuff now to where our ship's a little tighter.
Yeah.
So that was a lesson learned there, as well as the failure.
Yeah.
Our next one would be COVID. And so
who didn't learn anything from COVID?
I know. Oh my gosh. So our business was providing in-home services. So there's a lot of physical in-person touching that's going on, and COVID was not conducive to that. So a lot of that stuff ended up being remote. And so with that, in that time period with COVID, there were a lot of families who are like, no, you're still, you can't come into my house. We don't want to do this stuff remotely either. We just want to chill, take a break.
Yeah.
And so
everybody was scared. They didn't know. And, at the time, our population was 0 to 3. So they're just like, my kid is not going to sit in front of a computer and listen to what you have to say. So you know what? People around us are dying. We're just going to take some time and kind of be with our family. And I know that our business is not the only one, because the service business was, all services kind of were hit. And I know, at least in our area, people were like, hey, we got to get out there at least once a week and support these restaurants, or we're going to look up and not have anything, know. And so a lot of service industries were hit. And so I would say the ones that survived and were able to come back were ones that could pivot. Life is about learning how to pivot and take some different detours when it just looks like, something's coming at you that can take you out. And I think that in business, that's a big one that we learned, is that number one, we can't have all our eggs in one basket. I've heard somebody say that one stream of income is too close to none. So they made a good point about making sure that when you are in your heyday in one stream of income, you start getting busy trying to figure out how you can expand on that brand. Now, obviously, don't be a cookie baker and then open a playground, right? An indoor playground. Those are things that are not aligned with your brand. But there are different things that you can do. Can you do like a cookie decorating class for birthday parties? Are you able to kind of get into some of the smaller coffee shops? So some of the things that are aligned with your brand that you can kind of expand. Because I think what happened is we were riding high and things that were going so great, you get comfortable, and comfortability is probably the enemy of all growth and success. I mean, I would say these last couple of years we've been most uncomfortable, but I would say we've grown the most in the last couple of years. So anytime you feel yourself too comfortable and kind of riding that wave, understand that waves crest, but they also kind of fall. And get busy, because if you plant the seeds for something else that's starting, when you are at the top of something else, as you start writing that one down, you should start to be able to sow some of the seeds that you planted. What's hard is to wait until nothing's going on and then start to plant seeds for something else.
Sure.
So that's what we learned about that. Not only pivoting, but making sure we're doing it even when we're riding high on something else.
That you're constantly putting irons in the fire.
Yes, because it's something where it's not going to explode overnight. Nothing is. And if you're expecting it to, you give off that desperate energy. And the universe doesn't reward that. Yeah. And people, they can smell that desperate energy and they're like, I'll call you back. You know, and you don't want to be that way. But sometimes, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. I get that. No judgment. But just set yourself up so that you always have something that is kind of feeding you right then, but you always have other seeds that you are expecting to kind of come and be fruitful later on.
For sure.
And COVID taught us that. Had we kind of made good on some of the other modes of income that we had talked about, we had just been too comfortable, we may have been able to kind of recover faster. We still were able to recover, but it was one of those things that it was slower.
And it wasn't from a lack of trying. The irony in what you just said about don't, you know, open a bakery and then open a playground. We actually kind of did that because, you know, we were doing our ABA thing, but then we opened up, like, we tried to do a nail thing, which has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
We tried to do vending machines, which has nothing to do with that.
You're right.
But all of those things are also touchy kind of things, and it was during COVID.
But it was also the brand. So we were creating separate brands for each of those. We just worked on trying to expand our brand out. You know, if you think of how many learners that we've seen and how we have an airtight system now for transferring them from one department to another. Had we kind of worked on expanding that when we were just at our peak, one department would be so much bigger. So that's what I speak of, is just kind of expanding the current brand. If you're going to start other hustles, you know, as long as you're able to give all of them attention,
dedicated
then
time,
yes, there's nothing wrong with that. But the one brand that we had that was doing great, we got excited about and didn't expand on that one. And we know that now and we expand now, but I just think of where we could have been had we been very intentional about riding that wave and bringing something else in at the same time.
Because what ended up happening was when our revenue dropped during COVID, we were like, oh crap, we got to do something else. And so then we got desperate and started trying to do stuff out in the park with the kids, just trying to do all sorts of stuff, and nothing was working because we had that air of desperate. Yes,
I was going to say, I think that it's what I'm saying. People can smell desperation from a mile away. And even if you don't feel like you're acting desperate, just the energy that you're giving off because you need this to work. It's just, you know, it's one of those things where you have to attract it and not chase it. But when you're desperate, you're chasing, you know, let's be honest. And so some things will work out, but not to the extent if you just kind of plant and let it bloom and then collect your harvest, and as opposed to being like, hey, I need this right away.
And then you got so pressed and rushed to where you end up making mistakes. Your output is going to be a lot more quality. And so what ended up happening there was so that was our early start side. And we wanted to move over to the ABA side, which is private insurance, but we didn't know anything really about that. So taking a lesson from what we learned in real estate, we're like, hey, we're not going to find some other people to do this. We're going to try to do this ourselves.
Can't be that hard. I know they have classes and a whole degree about insurance billing, but we got this. I mean, it's some questions you answer on a sheet. We got this.
And
how did that work out for us?
We failed miserably.
To the tune of providing free services to all our ABA clients for the first year.
About a year.
I would say, yes. And so
we would submit claims and they would kick it back to us, and it was just all sorts of stuff wrong with the claims that we just didn't know.
We didn't know.
So we found someone to do it for us, and then that came with a whole separate set of issues because we still don't know what we're doing, and so we're entrusting this person to do it for us. That did not work out as well because it was kind of a repeat of our experience with real estate, where they were telling us one thing, something else was actually happening, and it just was not working out at all. And so we ended up finding the perfect fit, which was a vendor that we have. We've been using them for over a year now. We have pretty much zero issues with them. And so the lesson to take there is you absolutely want to learn as much as you can, but you also need to have people around you to help facilitate what you're doing. Where the checks and balances come in is where you need to know enough about what they're doing so that when they come back to you and produce something, you're able to say, hey, no, this isn't right, or this needs to look like this. you send it back to them, and then you can go on and do the next thing that you're doing while they're taking care of this process for you.
And I would say frequent check-ins, right? We have those standing meetings with
every
her.
other month or every other week. Yeah.
Yes, but the meetings, I would say where it differs from where we went on with real estate is that we have our hands in all of it. So we're verifying, trust but verify.
Right.
So we are able to kind of verify by funds coming in or us getting the same, correspondence that she's saying that she's getting for any problems. I think that anybody that works in the insurance space where you're billing insurance can attest to the fact that there's never going to be just a smooth sale, because I think insurances, they're just very particular.
Yeah.
So we'll say that and leave it at that. So it's going to be a lot of, okay, let's go back and dot this I and send it back again. Oh, the date didn't have a slash; it just had like a hyphen. Okay, let's go back and send it again. So there is going to be that, and I think anybody dealing with insurance, companies knows that there's a little bit of that, but the amount of it that we have now is a lot better. So to expound on what we said about real estate, about kind of having to learn every aspect, you also do have to know, just like in the case of HR, the case of the insurance, where it's completely out of your lane, and you're going to learn exactly what you want the deliverables to be, but you are going to have to hand it off to somebody else, because you saw what the disaster was when we were attempting HR. You're hearing what the disaster was when we were attempting insurance billing. So just to kind of add to what we said about kind of wanting to handle all of it yourself, you have to know when it's outside of your grasp, but you need to know enough about what you expect to receive from that person and the timeline that you expect to receive it, and really be purposeful about holding their feet to the fire if they're not getting it to you.
Absolutely. So that is, I think we're out of successes and failures.
Just keep living. Keep living. We are learning as we go. So I would say those are the biggest ones that we have right now, though. And so what will you guys please in the comments let us know some of the ones that either resonated with you or some of the ones that kind of you experience as far as successes and failures, and what you've learned from them, because I think that it's an opportunity for all of us to learn, but it's also an opportunity to reassure somebody that may be watching this, or somebody that may read the comments, that I'm not alone. Because I think a lot of times we feel such shame because we feel like we should be smarter than this, or we should be further along than this. And I heard somebody say today, it was Tiffany Aliche, the Budgetista. I was listening to her, and she said, shame shields solutions. So when you are shrouded in shame, you stop yourself from seeing the solutions that are available to you. But I think shame is so big because we don't speak it. We don't say, hey, this is what I went through and this is what I learned. And as long as shame can trick you into believing you're the only one, you kind of sit in a corner with shame and don't look around to see that other people are kind of dealing with it as well. So if you can speak your truth, then other people are like, girl, me too. Me too. I had that same thing happen. I had a contractor run off with my money, and I lived in the same state. You start seeing, oh, okay, so this is not a lack of education. This is just us being human and being molded into the person that we're supposed to be. So we would love to hear from you guys and hear what your successes and failures are.
Absolutely. Don't forget to follow us
like and subscribe.
Yes.
Like our YouTube channel, please, and subscribe to it so that you are kept aware of when we release new episodes.
Absolutely.
That would be great. We are a growing podcast, and so we would love to have you along on the journey with us.
Absolutely. Follow us on Instagram.
We are on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram.
Follow us.
Yes. And Partners in Prosperity. So you can find us there or on Facebook. My kids say that only old people use Facebook, but if you're on Facebook, we are too, so we can be old together. So follow us on those two.
Yeah, kids listening to this. Whippersnappers.
If you are, hats off to you for wanting to learn.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast, and we look forward to chatting with you guys, catching up, and looking forward to the next episode. For sure. In the meantime, we hope that you stay unified in purpose, unstoppable as a team, and unconditional above all. Let's go.